So I wanted to talk about celibacy today. Interesting topic, isn't it? I've been in a forced celibacy like for the last maybe 15 years or so. Forced not to due to external circumstances, there would have been options, but more forced like from my higher self, from like, oh, let's just figure out who we are and what we want to do here. Um, you know, I've been celibate my entire life. I have two grown children. Um, and celibacy has this kind of weird connotation, right? It's like this all priestly kind of thing, permanent celibacy for religious reasons. And that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. Now, there's aspects of, so why is, for instance, celibacy, why is it a thing in priesthood or in some forms? I'm not an expert in that, but I definitely feel that it's part of some of the beliefs. Well, I think it originates from, well, being closer to God, right? And so I don't, I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, whatever the word spiritual means. Um, so I don't adhere to that concept of God and things like that. But for me, there's an inner truth in that you get to know yourself in a way that you wouldn't be able to. Would you always be in a relationship? Being celibate and it, but for me it was kind of forced. Um, as I mentioned, and it was tedious. It's still tedious. It's only for the strong. Like you can only do that if you're actually really really strong, and it's mainly driven by your purpose. So although it is quite challenging, there's a reward there, and that's what makes it worthwhile and what makes it valuable. Um, there's things I learned about myself that I would not never been able to learn had I not been in isolation, in terms of a relationship and being able to be by myself for extended periods of time and figure out who I am, how I respond to things, how I think. Um, it's like this continuous continuously returning concept of, well, you cannot appreciate light if you haven't been in the darkness. It's this kind of concept of opposites, of polarity, like the Kabbalion says. Um, and and so on one end of the spectrum there's celibacy, and on the other end of the spectrum is divine union, and in the middle are all kinds of relationship that with different value and experiences attached to it. And I think to really being able to appreciate that divine union aspect of a human relationship, of a human experience, the best way to really appreciate that extreme, you have to have gone quite deep in the other direction. Otherwise, I don't think you will. It's like it's kind of a logical concept, right? This light and dark thing, this contrast makes complete sense. You're not gonna see light if you're in light. You're just not gonna see it. You're gonna appreciate something if you embed it or you have experienced the opposite. Then suddenly that contrast defines what you're experiencing. And so it's my strong belief that to really be able to be in a high level relationship, something that actually makes sense from a soul's perspective. And of course, everything makes sense from a soul's perspective. It's all about the experience. But based on what I believe I incarnated for, I only yearn or seek the absolute. I seek enormous depth. I I can only believe that it's based on the fact that I experience all the rest. So the only thing that makes sense to me is to experience something that's out of the ordinary, that is unique. And so for extreme results, you need extreme measures, you know. So it's all about. It sounds all a bit extreme, but at the end of the day, it's for a particular goal that it's not achievable otherwise. And so there is something to this celibacy thing in priesthood. You know, they want to be closer to God. Now I think, you know, if you only experience that extreme, there's obviously something missing for a human experience. And I'm not criticizing anybody, you know, like if you want to experience that's completely fine, and that's going to give you a particular perspective. But for me, to be a balanced human being, you obviously need to experience the entire bandwidth from one extreme to the other. But there is this nugget of gold in there to be closer to something. It's closer to your higher self. Not only closer to your higher self, but you realize your higher self. You return to it. You know, you return to your truth. It's not that the higher self is something separate. You just learn more about yourself, and it's impossible to do if you just if there's constantly action, if there's constantly someone to interact with, if someone bounces off ideas of you or things like that, which is obviously great. Like there's nothing against relationship, but there is something that is only achievable through a period of celibacy, and I think it's something that's that more people could benefit from. To be honest, in society, there's a lot of shit out there. And I think it reminds me also like a poem of Charles Bukowski, All the Way, you know, that the isolation, I think he says, the isolation is the gift, all the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want it, while paraphrasing slightly. So he also recognizes that gift in isolation, and all the rest, it's a challenge of your endurance. So it's not easy. No one says it's easy. It's pretty fucked up sometimes. Pardon my language. But there is that gift in there, and the gift is yourself. And once I really deeply believe that other saying that says, you know, you can only love another to the extent you love yourself. People always seek to compensate. They have low self-esteem. They don't know who the hell they are. They don't know what they want to achieve in their lives, and then they basically put their hooks into someone else and to be dragged around life, you know, and to give other people responsibility for how shit maybe they feel, or to give them purpose. And there's value in that. It's an experience, but certainly I'm past that level. That unconditional love, divine union type of thing is only achievable if you don't seek any compensation. You don't seek to be compensated for anything. You're fully yourself. You fully learn to be yourself. You understand yourself, and then you enter a relationship with another person. Ideally, nothing else is going to work at that stage. Another human being that has reached the same level of clarity with regards to themselves and what they want to achieve and who they are, and that is divine union. And that's the only thing that to me makes sense to experience. I'm not here to initiate any type of karma, and I explained karma in another post. You know, karma is nothing bad. It's just that there's energetic exchange, and sometimes it's not complete at the end of the life, you know, so you basically have to reincarnate to complete it with that same person in another form. So I'm not here to create more energy that doesn't reach completion. I'm here to basically experience without any, to basically experience completion every single moment of the day. There's nothing to be said, there's nothing, it's just completion. It's just experience for the sake of being experience. It's just pure freedom, pure kind of, you can call it bliss. I mean, at that stage, it's just happiness. It doesn't have to be exuberant. You don't have to yell all the time, but at least you have this deep, like you deeply anchored in peace and in joy and contentment, and things can burn around you, and you're just like, okay, nothing can veer you off course anymore, because it's just perfect in the humanness. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect. You don't have to be a millionaire or anything like that. But it's just perfection because, you reached a certain level of maturity and depth, the ultimate level of maturity and depth. And well, I think I'm not sure exactly what triggered this post. I definitely caught the reactions to Aubrey Marcus's recent podcast, where he was talking about radical monogamy or something like that. Aubrey Marcus, if you don't know him, he's quite a pretty influential person. He started the On It brand, I think, with Joe Rogan, and I think he's out by now. He has his own brand. He does workshops and all about masculinity, I think, or something like that. I respect him, deeply respect him. He's achieved crazy things, and he also it was based on him that I finally pulled the decided to go and experience ayahuasca a decade ago, because he was talking about his experience, and I actually went to the same shaman as he did in Peru, and so I'm very grateful for that. I think that was he lit that spark, to finally actually do it. I was thinking about it before, but then based on his recounts, that's how I really decided to do it. So all credits go to him. But yeah, I think with that radical monogamy, which is actually polyamory, I'm not sure how this can be considered to be monogamy. I also kind of strongly disagree with his point. I think I'm not sure how to say that, whether he's confused or whether it's not clear for him. But, and again, we talk, it's, that's my opinion, and people are free to voice their opinions. I think he would definitely be a person that would, I think, strongly benefit from a bit of celibacy for a couple of years. That would be the hardest thing for him, probably, because he's really focused on that carnal flesh type of experience of the divine, and feels a bit unbalanced to me. I think he has a lot to learn, and I think he would, what he's left to learn. He's a very wise person, and he knows a lot of stuff, but he has some blind spots, and that blind spot is only going to be addressed if he would actually be by himself for an extended period of time. My opinion, my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. 2 cents. But yeah, how much do you know yourself to be able to know, first of all, what you want in a partner? Obviously, you're free to learn what you want in a partner by learning what you don't want, which is basically achieved with lower consciousness relationships. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to learn like that, absolutely, no, there's no problem with that at all. I think it's more like an indirect way, and it's going to take lots of iterations and lots of karmic energy being built that you might have to clean at some stage. But I think the more challenging, the hardest way is via sitting with yourself. And it's uncomfortable for long periods of time, and the benefits gains and the gifts are coming slowly, and it's a very frustrating process, but I don't think that you will achieve the same results by any other means. It's just it's that clarity. It's just sitting in the dark until you're so frustrated that at some stage it's gonna click and you're gonna see your own light. It's the same thing as like any type of spiritual development. This is just an aspect that is linked to relationships, to being exchanging something with another incarnated soul. And for me, I'm just so happy that I mean, it's a shit show. It's still a shit show, but um, I know only once you've gone through the process can you actually understand the concept of this. It was worth it, Even if you're looking at how much pain or how challenging it was. Can you imagine being able to say this was worth it? Can you imagine what's on the other side of the balance if it was worth it? If something is so shit and so challenging but at the end you still say it's worth it, that's something quite invaluable, right? And it's also, at the end of the day, it's all about, one of the major issues today is self-worth. A lot of people have low self-esteem, and there's a lot of compensation going on. The most valuable thing you could ever gain through any type of spiritual path or journey or celibacy, it's the recognition of your own divinity. I mean, that's the end game, right? That's at the end. That's going to be the singularity and going back to source. So this is, in the human form, is just a recognition of your own divinity. So straddling two worlds, having obviously still being functional here. That's what you came here for, to have a human experience. But at least you have the other foot in the other realm. That's the point, to recognize your own divinity and still be anchored in the physical world. But once you recognize your own divinity, then it becomes very clear that you're not going to give that just away. You will attract or only seek a partner that reflects that own level, that same level. You're not just you're going to recognize how worthy you are, and who is worthy to share that energy, your energy. That can only be like a soul that has reached the same level, so that you can share energies at the same level. Anything else is not going to be worth it. It's just going to be lower energy from a soul's perspective, and that's just my perspective. I can't be, I guess that's part of the lessons I learned. I'm not going to go lower. It's just not part of who I am anymore. It's not worth it. Any type of purely physical fun or anything like that, it's just not. I understand its finality. It's just, oh yeah, well, gonna have fun for a little period of time. It weighs nothing compared to eternity. To once you really get it, if you get your eternal self, who gives a shit about even a lifetime? Like, whatever. Once you truly get it, it's all of this becomes so relative. And so there's no, you don't seek just, even if it's something I'm longing for, human comfort, human touch, and these things like that. And I understand them. And that's also a thing, like in celibacy, you start, because again, I haven't been celibate in my entire life, but you put a different value. You can sense things with such definition. It was all blurry before. You don't actually understand any of it. You just go through it, and you're just driven by particular instincts that are quite human. But this perspective I have right now on divine type of union relationships, it's quite insane. It's just that it's like being able to see, and you were blind before. You see all the purpose, you see all the finite little things, you pay attention to every single detail. It's not like this blur, this kind of fun like blur. It's all high definition for me. And it's like watching a movie in HD. You're not gonna go back to black and white little flimsy little movies from 50 years ago. It's just, it doesn't taste the same. It's just, there's no point to it. There's no point doing it. And so I don't have advice for anybody. Everyone can do whatever they want, but I just wanted to maybe, I'm not even sure who I'm talking to, whether I'm talking to my masculines, my feminines, both sides are equally involved in this, and both sides equally, based on society, equally seek comfort and seek to oftentimes compensate for their own lacks in another being. They want the savior. They want someone who they want a distraction from how potentially shit they feel deep inside, which they don't want to address. And obviously being in isolation forces you to address everything comes up, every single, and sometimes it takes a while, and then time being, well, not linear, it's a circular thing, right? You go through a circle, and then you go deeper and then deeper or higher, depending on how you want to look at it. And there's always more coming up. There's always something that comes up. And in the end, there's no end to that. And I think once you reach a particular point, the only way to then progress is to be in a relationship. 100%. But I think you shouldn't start with a relationship, because that's gonna be like a dead end. You need to start a relationship once you already achieved a particular level, and then you can progress together. And that makes complete sense. But everyone tries the other way around, which doesn't make any sense. So it comes down to what is your purpose here, and obviously if your purpose is not similar to mine, would have lost you at the word celibacy probably already, because it's really uncool, right? It's completely uncool, and loser type of phenotype, I understand all of that, and I'm not going to convince such people anyway, so that's fine. We're not on the same, we're not sharing the same reality, and that's all good. I don't criticize any experience. That's all fine. But I'm perhaps talking to people that might benefit from that insight. There's no encouragement from my side. There's no advice. It is very challenging. Um, you and only you can determine if it's worth it. But you can only determine that once you've actually got the gift. Once you reap the benefits, that's when you can say, oh, was it actually worth it or not. Yeah, life is definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. Um, Based on my experiences, it's kind of interesting how life can just, how come you can live such polar opposite experiences, you know. I find that really fascinating, you know. Having been a father, I'm still a father obviously, and then celibacy, and then kind of calling in my soulmate. How cheesy that sounds. These are just words, you know. Words are anyway limiting. If I could do one thing, if I would like to have a superpowers to communicate telepathically, you know, it's just so natural to me. I do it all the time, but obviously no one's answering. um, but yeah, that was kind of my little channel on celibacy. Now it's never going to become cool. Maybe, you know, hope dies last. You know, maybe at some stage it's going to become cool. Um, Instead of having body counts, you know, celibacy. How deep did you go? How deep do you understand yourself? Yeah, it would be cool if it became cool again. We'll see what happens. Maybe in my reality it will. You know, maybe you're off in a different one. Um, in the higher realms, it's definitely cool. It's a stamp of approval. It's a stamp of mastery. You cannot fake that. You cannot bullshit your way through that. Much love to everyone. I'll see you in the next one.